Hello, everybody. This is the Chocolate News Podcast. I'm your co-host, John Alexander Reese.
And I'm your co-host, Andria Carter.
And if you did not know, the Cincinnati Herald has been around since 1955 and is the leading African American owned newspaper in the greater Cincinnati area and northern Kentucky area. How's it going, Andrea?
It's going great, John. I am having the best week possible. It has it's been a very interesting week to say the least, historically, to watch the launch of a new presidential campaign and watching the Democrats unify and then GOP implode and go to their usual shtick. So
Yeah, it certainly has been like a reversal of fortune, especially with the new political campaign. So let's start off with the chocolate news. What is it?
well, the chocolate news is first. I'm going to start off. A couple of things that occurred that we didn't get a chance to mention last week. First off, Representative Sheila Jackson Lee, she passed, which is so. If many people don't know, Sheila Jackson Lee was a long-serving member of the Texas delegation to Congress. She was 74. She had pancreatic cancer, which was really sad. She was diagnosed in June, and she's
Really?
gone. Yeah, she's gone that quickly. But she was a fierce advocate for women, for social justice. She's really has been behind a number of legislative achievements that have been put forth in front of Congress. She's survived by her husband, two children, and two grandchildren. So it's kind of sad to see her go, but she's always been one of those fiery women you love to watch on MSNBC over time to talk about things. Second up, I know everybody loves the Four Tops. Um, and the last surviving member of the Four Tops, and I know I'm going to butcher his name because you know how I am about names, but Abdul, known as the Duke Fakir, um, he passed on Monday in Detroit. He was 88, and he was he was the last original member of the Four Tops. In fact, he was performing last year. Until I
Really?
guess, yes, he was performing last year, until, 70-year music career. Can you believe that? 70 years. Ooh,
That's amazing.
that is a lot. I mean, everyone remembers the Four Tops. They used to wow the crowd, going, traveling during Jim Crow, the changes in the industry. He's been around for a long time, but he had been in poor health, and he finally did this. He finally retired from touring in 2023. What does that
Wow.
say? Yes, and he was 88 and he was touring. Ooh,
Oh my goodness, that's
yes.
crazy.
Yes, he could. The
Um,
fact that his pipes still worked and he could
I
sing,
know. That's
that
that's
is,
that's something.
he was a tenor for the Four Tops. He was on many hits, including "I Can't Help Myself," "Sugar Pie Honey Bunch," "Bernadette." It's the same old song, "Reach Out, I'll Be There," and "Standing in the
Oh,
Shadows of Love." He sang
re-
on those.
reach out. I'll be okay. You know what? Because you said the Four Tops, and I'm just like, I know I must know a song by them, but I remember that. I love that song.
Yeah, he was one of the original groups that made Motown. They helped make Motown, was the Four
Right.
Tops. Um, and they went on to other labels. They had a number of other sets, other hits like "Keeper of the Castle," "Sweet Understanding Love," "No Woman Like the One I've Got," which is a big one that a lot of people might know. And Jay, just over the years, the Four Tops remain relevant no matter what. So it's so sorry to hear him go. And another exciting piece of news, people don't pay attention to what NASA does. I mean, they're not putting people on the moon or putting people on Mars or things like that, but they are doing some exciting things to figure out space travel and things like that. And a very interesting thing they did last week was that they played one of Missy Elliott's songs and shot it out across the heavens. And it took 14 minutes to reach Venus. They transmitted her song, "The Rain."
Super
And
duper fly. Oh,
yes.
that's
And
awesome.
14 minutes to reach Visa, which happens to be Missy Elliott's favorite planet, by the way. Don't understand that, but okay. And so they're blasting music across the heavens, I guess, to see what happens or how long it takes for sound to reach a distant planet and other tests like that. So the fact that it was Missy Elliott is fantastic. So I would just say keep watching what NASA does. You never know what they're going to do next in life. The next best thing that has happened is the ACLU. The ACLU put out a press release. Remember when the state of Ohio passed a law restricting voters from helping people cast their absentee ballots? That was Ohio House Bill 458. Well, the League of Women Voters of Ohio, with the ACLU, sued the state of Ohio regarding this law, and the federal court has struck it down. So if you have a disability and you can't take your own ballot to the voting box or to a designated spot, you can now designate someone to take it for you, and it will not be against the law. So
Hmm.
that just came down on Monday, I believe. So that's a big win for voters in the state of Ohio, especially the elderly and those who are disabled who can't make it out, who can't are as mobile. So that's a win for voters. Yay.
Yeah.
Another win, which will be interesting to see what happens in November. We spoke about this earlier about the group of people who got together to put an Ohio anti-gerrymandering amendment on the ballot for November. They had collected over 700,000 signatures. Well, the Secretary of State certified 535,005 signatures, which is enough to put the amendment on the ballot in November. And so Ohio voters will get a chance to say yay or nay about creating a new commission not made up of politicians at all to make the districts in the state of Ohio are like are I should say are like are voting districts, and that way there will no longer be a gerrymandered district. They'll be fair, they'll be appropriate, and no politician will be part of the commission if this passes. So we will see what happens in November, but it's going to be interesting to see how quickly for and against these campaigns will ramp up to let everybody know what's going to be on the ballot in November. So this just came down. The Ohio Capitol Journal released an article today about this. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the next 100 days regarding this issue. Last but not least, the big news that occurred on Sunday, and why we have our guest here today, Elijah, is here to talk about it. President Biden did the biggest thing for the country. He stepped down from his presidential campaign, his reelection campaign, and endorsed Kamala Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris, to run as the Democratic presidential candidate. And this happened on Sunday. It was in like early afternoon. It was announced about 35 minutes after he announced. The vice president said, yes, I will win and I will try and unify the party and gain the endorsement of the American people. Next thing you know, within the last, 48 hours of that announcement, you've had people energized in the Democratic Party. You've had women organized, Black men organized. Um, Money has been raised within 5 hours of her announcement. $27 million was raised. Within 12 hours of the announcement, it was up to 68 million. Within the first 24 hours of her campaign, she had raised over $100 million.
Wow.
Um, As of yesterday afternoon, over 65,000 people have signed up to be volunteers for the Democratic Party. She has now raised, also he's now $100 million. 2 million of that 100 million were raised by um, Black women and Black men on two separate calls. One was Win with Black Women that was created 4 years ago. And there were over 44,000 women on that call. I got on that call. I've had a link sent to me 3 times for the first initial link. And then I had a new link sent to me later on that evening to get me in, because the original call was limited to 1,000 women, but people kept trying to get in. The president and CEO of Zoom worked with the organization who was on the call and opened up space on Zoom for this call. And when I finally got on about 10 o'clock, it was up to 33,000 women. By the time I got off at midnight, it was up to 41,000 women, and they started donating money to the campaign. The next day, Win with Black Men call was established. The women raised 1.5 million. The men, 53,000 men were on the call. They ended up raising 1.3 million for Kamala. Um, and it is amazing. And then there was a virtual call last night for white women for Kamala that occurred last night, but I haven't heard any details about what happened on that call and what was the outcome of that phone call. So women are energized, men are energized, or at least we know they got on the phone call anyway. And People are energized to see and hear what's happening with this new presidential campaign. And I think it's very, very exciting. And that is all the chocolate news I got for today.
All right. Well, thanks, Andrea. And we actually have a special guest with us today. So, Andrea, do you want to introduce him?
Yes, he was on before, Elijah Hyman, who is an operative with the local Democratic Party. He's also a just to let everybody know, I work with him with the Urban League, but also he is a Democratic operative. He's very much in the know. He's younger than I am. I'm young at heart, but he's really young in age. But he understands what's going on. He is a young person. He understands what young people are viewing this, and what this means for the Democratic Party. So Elijah, thank you for agreeing to be on the show today.
Thank you guys for having me back. I really appreciate it.
And I would just say, where were you on Sunday when you heard the word that there was a
Um,
change happening?
well, Miss Andrea, as you know, I was in Minneapolis for a kickball tournament, unfortunately.
That's right.
Uh,
That's right. You were.
so my team and I were out at lunch before the tournament started, and all of a sudden, everybody looks at me and says, "Elijah, did you get the news alert yet?" And I said, "No, what's going on?" And then everybody starts yelling at it. Then I look across the restaurant, everybody's looking at their phones all throughout the restaurant. So it was an interesting little 5 minutes there for a second.
Wow. I mean, but was that when Biden announced or when Kamala said yes?
That was when Biden first announced.
Which, I mean, that was a jaw-dropping moment to do what Lyndon, I mean, this hasn't happened since Lyndon B. Johnson said he was
Yeah,
not going to run. I mean, it's significant. It's very, very significant. But were you surprised that he endorsed Kamala or not? It was expected.
I I will say that I am much more surprised in the fact that he dropped out more so than the fact that he endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris. If he was going to drop out and leave the race, I figured that it would have had to have been her. The Democratic Party has they've done well, sure, in the last 4 years, but everyone can see that they have trouble organizing their own coalitions, especially throughout this year so far. So the optics of passing up the the main successor, the number one successor, who was also a Black woman, would have been horrible had they not immediately endorsed Harris.
I know the jockeying that was going on, and then it seems like everyone did not pay attention to the change in the campaign finance laws that were created under Donald Trump, that they didn't realize how much of a change those laws were and who had access to that war chest.
Yes, I think that also plays a huge factor into making her the nominee.
Because I mean, the last time everyone had access to that, big war chest money prior to Donald Trump, it was just easy, go around, do whatever. But now, I mean, this is the reason why Donald Trump can raise all that money and take his campaign finance money and use it for legal fees, because
Exactly.
only he can use that money. And I think everyone paid attention to what he was doing, but not paying attention to how it affected them and the party and what was going on and who raised what. With the last 48, 50 hours of this campaign, for you, what does this mean for you as a young voter?
Well, as a young voter, it makes me a little bit more excited for this campaign cycle. Throughout this entire year, there's been, I mean, not even just young voters, but pretty much every group in the Democratic Party this year has been curious, wondering what's going on, wondering if Joe Biden's going to stay in, regardless of how many times he said, I'm staying in the race. There was still the thought that he might not stay in the race, which I think signals a leadership issue. If you can say something so many times as the supposed leader of the party and people are still going to question you no matter how many times you say it, I think that is a huge thing that maybe played into him stepping aside and making Kamala the nominee, which is not official for another 2 or 3 weeks, but still. But as a young voter, it makes me energized. And I think that it has energized a lot of different factions of the Democratic Party, just in Hamilton County, in Ohio, and across the country, because now there's a figure who everyone can kind of get behind.
I would say, as a young person who I know, from what I heard from the younger people, that nobody wanted to vote for two old guys.
Yeah.
Even though he's done a lot, he's accomplished a lot, he's done a lot for the American people. What was it? How hard was it to get behind Joe? I mean, we did it 4 years ago. He got us out of COVID. But why was it so much harder now than it was 4 years ago?
Well, I think the number one thing was definitely the debate last month. I mean, even in the first 6 months of the year, people were saying like, yeah, it's two old guys, but we still had this, the saying in the Democratic Party, the vote blue no matter who. And while people were still saying this, it wasn't until that debate when we could realize that, oh, like it's worse than it was 4 years ago. Even everyone thought it was the same way 4 years ago, but going back and watching his debates in 2020, you can tell that he's not the same as he was then.
So, okay. So we love Joe. He has great legacy. He's done a lot for us. I'm going to sorry to see him go, but at the same time, he did the self-sacrificing thing after the data was proving to him that, look, you got to do something. But going forward now, we have 100 days going forward. You're active. What are you seeing right now within Hamilton County and the down ballot races? What are you seeing?
Right now, I'm seeing a little bit more energy. I can say that for sure because working on campaigns down here, I can tell you that before this past weekend, there have been people who are so frustrated with Democrats at the national level, they don't want to get involved locally. But having a leader now on the national level who can unify the party will help those get behind and get more involved just locally. So we're going to see more people come out and canvass. We're going to see more people do text banking, phone banking. Some just because they want to support Democrats, and some appreciate the historical factors of it. I think it's a huge thing that we have a real chance to make sure that the first woman president's elected this year, and not only that, but our first woman president can be a Black woman as well.
What about the fact that she is not only a Black woman, well, one, she's a woman, she's a Black woman, but there are, some people who are reluctant to vote for a Black person, and especially a Black woman and a woman itself. Men especially at times. I talked to a pastor who talked about, we speculated about this possibility, and he sort of said, I don't know if I'm going to vote or not for her. How do you get over that thinking?
Well, I think that is when you really have to bring out the facts of the matter in this election. Over the last, this is I'd say the third election cycle in a row where we can point to the nominees and say that the nominee who they made the issue of the year is the one who lost. In 2016, they talked about Hillary Clinton as the issue in the presidential election, and she lost. In 2020, we made the issue Donald Trump, and he lost. So I think Joe Biden stepping aside because he realized, and the party forced him to realize, that his age was getting talked about more than the actual issues that matter to people. So I think him stepping down and having a younger candidate who can talk about the facts, the policies, and everything, and make Donald Trump's character and his policies the issue can help us win nationwide. And so I think when talking to voters who might not feel energized or mobilized this year, we have to talk about what Donald Trump wants to do, talk about his policies, talk about Project 2025,
Oh, yeah.
make that the issue of this election.
What about the fact that, it's kind of surprising that the reaction, we all got caught off by guard by the decision, but we
Yes.
rallied. The GOP has not rallied well and not
No,
reacting
they haven't.
well to this. I'm amazed. They thought they had it in the bag. And, we've heard racist comments come out, innuendo comments come out, threatening to sue, articles of impeachment filed against Vice President Kamala Harris. I mean, for a GOP that seemed to have had it together after that, quote, unifying national convention, they are really dim-witted out of the gate in reaction to this.
Yes, and that's because they've let someone become the leader of their party who couldn't even run his own office.
And the now the VP choice, which is, JD Vance from Ohio, Senator JD Vance, even they are seeing that, okay, he was the wrong choice. It is, all of a sudden they have to regroup, and they're not equipped. After firing everybody, they're not equipped to do it. I mean, I'm surprised. Really, truly, I'm surprised. Really am, but it is what it is. What are the next steps for the Democratic Party going forward? What are some of the
Well,
talking points that we should know about?
I think we're going to have to wait another few days, a week or so, until with the convention being right around the corner in the middle of August, they're going to have to announce Vice President Harris's VP pick soon to get the party behind them for the convention and make sure they have all the delegates stay behind them for that VP pick. I think that it will be an interesting idea on who they decide to go with. I think everyone knows that it will probably be a white man, probably from a swing state that the Democrats need. But I think the most important thing is they're going to have to make the vice presidential pick dependent on these new factions in the party, the younger voters who are really energized this year, and the issues that the young voters really care about is going to really play into who the vice presidential pick is for the Democratic Party. So I think that'll be the first step. That's next up. And the names thrown out there, obviously, Andy Beshear, Josh Shapiro, I believe is his name, from Pennsylvania,
Yeah.
Mark Kelly,
I
and
I like Mark Kelly, so I think
I
that would be an
I do
interesting
too.
pick.
And I think I've always been a fan of presidential tickets where they make the other person on the ticket strong in areas that the presidential pick might lack in. They did it in 2008. Obama didn't have a lot of foreign policy experience, but Joe Biden did. And I think that if Kamala Harris picks Mark Kelly, then he can speak to issues on the border that they might not want to talk about. He can help try to carry Arizona over, which is a state the Democrats might need this year. And it is also his experience as a veteran.
Yes, that in fact I clued in on. I forgot about Arizona and the border, but I clued in on the military. He really brings a wealth of experience for the military, but also with the gun laws because of what happened to his wife Gabby Gifford,
Yes.
um, which I thought is a huge given, a strength right there. Andy Beshear, it's Kentucky. He knows how to overcome a Republican state to achieve and success. Pennsylvania is special in itself. So, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But also, have you listened to some of her stump speeches? Um,
Yes, I do. I am a fan of how she talks, the way she talks, the issues, and how she talks about policies and everything. I think that her experience as an attorney general, senator, vice president will really help her in debates against Donald Trump. She won't get flustered in the debates. She'll make him act erratic, even more so than usual.
I like the fact that she says this is a fight about the future, not about going to the past, which I
Yes.
thought was brilliant. That was of all everything that you could focus on. I thought that was just a perfect argument to speculate about and everything like that. If you had to talk to young people today, what would you tell them going forward as they watch the campaigns evolve?
That's a good question. I think that I would focus on the problems with the Republican platform going forward, and their insistence on this Project 2025 and taking away certain rights. I think that how we talked about the last time I was on your show, the importance of the Supreme Court. It's very likely that in the next presidential cycle that the president will probably have to appoint two more Supreme Court justices. And I think that young people are more in tune now with the justice system, know the importance of it, and understand the importance of the Supreme Court. And I think that that'll get them more involved as well, because you have Clarence Thomas last year saying that he wants to look at the cases, Obergefell case. He wants to look at all these things that young people really care about,
Mm-hmm.
LGBTQ plus issues, equality, and anything like that. Young people are really in tune with these, and I think Kamala Harris will make her campaign about healing these issues that Donald Trump hurt in his presidency.
And she seems more real, closer to the American experience. Well, actually, closer to what people are living right now. Whether she's an immigrant, whether she's gone to school, whether she's the one and only in the room, um, peer pressure, um, work pressure, um, as a prosecutor. All that I think is just going to be a very, very interesting race. So I thank you for coming on real quick to talk about it. You're not going to be a stranger. You will be back.
Well,
Um,
anytime you ask.
and so I just thank you for this quick chat about what's going to happen. It's going to be interesting to see what the president says tonight when he addresses the nation at 8, and going forward what he wants to accomplish in the last 6 months of his term, and just see what happens. But thank you again for coming on, John.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Andrea, so much for the chocolate news. Great as always.
Thank you. Well, and it's going to be an exciting week to see what little tidbits I can come up. And real quick, we forgot to mention the Cincinnati Music Festival is this weekend.
It
So
is this weekend. That's right.
and
It's supposed to be a big one too. Real big. Oh my goodness. Because I think we got Fantasia coming. We got I'm trying to think. We got I'm sorry. New Edition coming. It's supposed to be a good one, and lots of people gonna be down there. Make sure you eat lots of food. Temperature is gonna be, well, it's gonna be just right. Let's hope it's not too hot now. So
yeah, I mean,
so yeah, definitely check it out.
because it's going to start Thursday with
Right.
July 25th with MC Light, Chris One,
Oh yeah.
EPMD, and Black Sheep. Uh,
K is KRS-One.
I'm sorry, KRS-One. See, I hate that I did that. Yeah, I should know better about KRS-One.
Yeah, that's old school hip hop right there.
That see, this is what I get. I haven't heard KRS-One in a long time.
Yeah,
MC
it's been a
Light,
while.
I mean, she does more voiceovers now than ever before. She has a great voiceover voice, even though she still raps a little bit. Friday night is going to be the original Lakeside. Ooh, October London, Neo, Fantasia, and the ever wonderful Maxwell. And then on
Mm.
Saturday, it's going to be Stokely, In Vogue, ooh, Kim, Coco Jones, and New Edition.
Ooh,
Which
okay.
is, they got some new and some old mixed together. I'm probably going to go down for the 513 Festival and
Okay. All
hang
right.
out and just, I haven't done it in a while, so I'm probably going to go down and just walk through and see what's happening downtown, feel the energy and the vibe. Pray that
Oh
I find
yeah.
a pray that I find a parking spot. Um,
Oh yeah. But it'll also be a good chance for people to check out the Black Music Walk of Fame too.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Black Music Walk of Fame is celebrating their 1 year anniversary, and they're
Right.
inducting new members to that Walk of Fame. And everyone's encouraged to wear white on Saturday to go down there. And I believe they're having a concert as well
They are.
afterwards. And
Yeah.
I again, I probably may go. It is it's one of those things of like I want to be part of it. I really, really, really do, but I think it's going to be interesting. They are honoring this year Randy Crawford, Shirley Murdoch,
Right.
Donald
Right.
Lawrence, and Roger Troutman and Zap. Ooh, oh,
Sounds like a good time.
I grew up with, well, no, I shouldn't say I grew up. I was in college. Okay, I'm saying my age now. When Roger Troutman and Zap came out, Shirley Murdoch, didn't she sing As We Lay? Is that the song?
Possibly. I'm not too familiar with those group of artists
Well, but okay, see, you're making me feel old now. But anyway,
though.
I mean, the really truly Roger Troutman, he was such a musical genius when it came to producing music, that Troutman sound. Because you know what? When I would go to visit my father when he lived in Dayton, I would drive past Troutman Studios all the time. And it was
Oh.
this small little building that all of these greats came out of, that Dayton sound. It was just kind of tragic how the brothers, what happened between the brothers and how he died. It was just so sad.
Mm.
Family argument that ended tragically, um, which killed the Trotman sound, unfortunately. But the lasting legacy of them in not just in Ohio, but across the country. The musical legacy is unbelievable. So I may just go down just for the heck of it. I got to find something white to wear. It's just. But anyway, so that celebration is at 12 p.m. on Saturday. It is a free event. And there's going to be a concert by Zap, which will be interesting because I haven't heard Zap in a long time. But there will be a parade of stars marching at 11. The event will start at 12 with the induction. Everyone's encouraged to wear white. I think it's fantastic. I mean, it's an exciting weekend. There's going to be the music festival. I think the Reds are playing. 513 Festival is going to be happening up there, I think near Fountain Square, I believe. I don't think it's going to be down the banks. So, I mean, it's just going to be interesting to see what's happening around the city this weekend.
Yeah.
It's one of
Okay.
it's one of the biggest tourism events that brings over 14 to 20 million dollars into the city in one weekend.
Oh boy.
Yes.
Okay.
And how people used to be treated to how they're treated now is a total turn event. Once the city acknowledge how much money this event brings into the city, people have a change of tune of who they serve and what they do. So
Yeah.
I think it's just interesting. So enjoy the weekend, everyone.
Yeah. And I want to thank Andrea again one more time for all the great chocolate news. Greatly appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure.
And remember, folks, you can find more information about today's topics and past podcast episodes at www.thecincinnatiherald.com, the Sesh newsletter, or on our social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Threads. And folks, make sure to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast app. You can listen to our podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. I'm John Alexander Reese.
And I'm Andria Carter.
And have a good day.